UAE drones. Did you see the picture?
Yeah, exactly.
Of the UAE
Today,
drones?
UAE
Yeah.
drone. And then we've learned Saudi Arabia, one of the commanders in Saudi Arabia, the head of army, is meeting with Americans with CENTCOM in order to cooperate with them to attack on Iran. Then Israeli media said that Qatar is preparing to cooperate in the attack, in American attack on Iran. Then moments before coming up, Qatar said, no, who said that? We're not going to be part of any sort of operation. These are making things up. This is part of the propaganda that they're making. We know the capabilities of Bahrain, Kuwait, and UAE. They're not that capable. They're not capable of defending themselves. And just imagine they're going on offensive. And Saudi Arabia, the same. They're living in a house made of glass, and they know that. It's about energy, it's about desalination, it's about everything. It's about their pipeline. And Qatar the same way. The case of the Strait of Hormuz is so critical for Qatar, more than other GCC countries. That's so important, but they're not going to get participate. They're not going to cooperate with the United States in these attacks. They're going to be demolished, in my opinion, if they do that.
Exactly.
And this is the propaganda that Israelis are somehow manipulating the whole media. But what is important is the position of Qatar and Pakistan. These are two important players with the negotiation. They have been, and right now it seems they continue to be the important players in the West Asia. And the other thing that it was so strange for me, it was in a Pakistani cargo plane which was hit. Nobody's talking about it. Pepe, what do you know about that? Do we have any information on that?
Not much. I just saw, but I haven't read the details about it. And well, the Pakistani angle is very, very complicated. I'm sure and our audience knows that Larry Johnson and I are involved in a new project, Transition Protocol, which, by the way, is growing very fast for a young channel. In 1 month, we reached 70,000 followers already, which for a young channel is quite remarkable. And our videos are getting 80,000, 90,000 easily. But today, I sent a very direct and sharp message for one of our contacts to ask, in fact, the Pakistani mediators directly, what are you really up to? What do you plan to do to support Saudi Arabia if the Saudis are conspiring against Iran? You are mediators. You cannot do that. And what is that? We are hearing some echoes from Pakistani well-placed people that if Yemen, depending on what Yemen does against Saudi Arabia, Yemen is going to have to pay a price. So this is very uncomfortable for all of us, because Larry and I, we have been giving credit to the information that we receive from Pakistan's military intelligence, from the mediators on the table, from this connection between the Pakistanis and the Qataris, with the Omanis being part of some of these negotiations. But now there is a possibility that all of that is also unraveling, because the Saudi position is extremely ambiguous. And there is no explanation whatsoever, Nima, and all of you in the audience, why Saudi Arabia would intervene against Yemen now, trying to bomb the runway of Sana'a International Airport. This is absolutely suicidal and beyond stupid, against their own interests, including they have an MOU with Yemen, by the way. I'm sure all of you know. And that's why there has not been any war between Sana'a and Riyadh these past few years. So they broke their own MOU. And did they get beyond desperate because Iran actually managed to break the air blockade against Yemen, which has been going on for 11 years so far, imposed by Saudi Arabia. Was that a reason enough to, in front of everybody, because everybody will know where the missiles came from and the bombing came from, bomb Sana's airport, which last year was bombed by the Israelis? But that's obvious. That's the death cult. But coming from Saudi Arabia, considering the fact that they have an MOU, that's not obvious at all. Nobody has an answer. And I also asked our Pakistani connections and sources, okay, give us a reason, and ask the Saudis themselves. After all, you are talking to them almost every day, and you have a military pact. Why did they do that? Which side are they on? Are they hedging again? Is MBS completely out of his mind? So there are a lot of unanswered questions, and very, very serious ones. But we are trying to get answers, Nima, but it's very difficult because that involves matters of national security, matters of military security, discussions that should not be in the public domain, you name it. But considering that we're now involved in a project where we are actually supporting mediation between Iran and the US via these mediators, Pakistanis, Omanis, Qataris, even Turkey. For instance, when we received the information that the only thing keeping Trump more or less not totally deranged is that Field Marshal Asim Munir in Pakistan and Erdogan together are trying to convince him to, cool it off. When Larry and I received this information, we were both incredulous that are we actually required to believe that these two people are the only chance that we have all over the world to more or less keep Trump in one piece? But apparently that's the story. And the story was reconfirmed. And the sources said that's absolutely it, because Trump is calling the Pakistanis every day, asking them to come up with some sort of rearrangement of the MOU that doesn't look like a humiliation, so Trump can bring the Iranians back to the table. You are Iranian, Nima. If you were one of the Iranian negotiators, would you come back to the table just with a promise that now I'm going to behave? Of course not.
Never.
And the mediators know, exactly. And the mediators, the Pakistanis know it, the Qataris know it, the Omanis know it, and even Erdogan, which is hedging all the time, he also knows it. So this is their mission is absolutely mission impossible. Instill some sense into Trump's brain. And there are only two people now left to do this. It's completely crazy. It's completely crazy. And obviously the Saudi Arabian card, which the Saudis need to explain, even to people who support them, what the hell are they doing now? Because if they continue this way, it's very simple. Ansar Allah will block the Bab al-Mandeb. Ansar Allah will block exports from the Yanbu port. Ansar Allah will block the flow of oil in the East-West pipeline, and the Saudis will be left with less than zero. They have to know this. And still, they did what they did.
There is no good record of negotiating with the West. I consider the case of Russia, the case of Iran. There is nothing there to be negotiated. Pepe.
Exactly.
I think the two administrations, the Boone administration and the Pezeshkian administration, they're getting to that point that there is no way to negotiate with the United States. It's impossible, Pepe.
It's impossible.
Just remember the Anchorage spirit, if you remember that spirit.
I'm glad that you brought this up, Nima. So sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. Just it took the Russians months to understand the Anchorage spirit was bullshit. Finally, only a few days ago, they finally understood. The Iranians understood from the beginning that the whole thing was bullshit. They were much faster. Please go ahead. Go ahead.
That's why I don't see any negotiation. I think Pepe, after all, they have to decide it on the battlefield. They're gonna fight. They're gonna learn it. Who has the upper hand? Who has the dominance? And finally, there is no way, because the way that they're negotiating, they're basically trying to deceive you. It's not about negotiations or about
no.
Their whole game a zero-sum game. Zero-sum game. That didn't change. That didn't change. It doesn't matter when it comes to Russia, to Iran, to whatever they have. Even in their relationship with their allies. It's all about gaining, not giving anything to them. Just look at the relationship between the United States and GCC countries. What are they getting from the relationship? GCC countries I'm talking about. What are they getting from the United States? What was the main reason? Are they getting security? Are they getting anything positive from the United States? And they're getting destroyed because of the war that Israel started this war. They're just sitting aside, and the United States is fighting as a proxy of Israel. And who's paying is GCC countries are paying for the war. Just imagine how this is insane. I don't know how to describe it.
You're right. But we expect that they are learning the lessons. Apparently not. Most of them have not learned yet. It will take their destruction maybe for them to learn the lesson, right?
Yeah. But I hope finally the leadership, both in Iran and in Russia, in my opinion, they're getting there. They know that there is no point out, considering any sort of negotiations with Donald Trump. Donald Trump going to be out of power in 2 years and a half. In the next 2 months, he's going to be involved in the new, elections in the United States, midterm elections, and they're going to be so much focused on that. Later on, they're going to be 2028. That's why JD Vance is just circulating. The guy is so amazing to me that the guy is just looking at the polls to see what are the critical points, what are the main points that resonate with the American audience, with the American people. Then he goes on the podcast talking and focusing on those things and trying to somehow resonate with those people who are not agreeing with the Trump administration. This is the whole agenda on the part of JD Vance, just spreading lies. He's not making anything strategically, or he's not that influential in the Trump administration. He's making his case for 2028.
He doesn't think strategically, Nima. And we all know who teleguides him. Né? He's basically following AI models. If he's elected, he's going to be the first AI elected president. That's what we have. An empty shell, totally fabricated, teleguided, and with absolutely less than zero understanding of foreign policy, which makes him, once again, as dangerous as the current one. And basically the full application of an artificial intelligence, I would say, stack of models, in fact. Very, very dangerous. I would say it could become even more dangerous than the current. At least everybody knows that this guy is a buffoon. This one is more complicated. This one is more like an acceptable version of the Terminator or RoboCop.
Just Pepe, look at the polls in the United States.
Yeah,
Are these people concerned about, what's going on in Ukraine? Nobody's concerned about Ukraine. Nobody cares about, the war in the West Asia against Iran, unless they have some sort of, because of the repercussions coming to the American economy, and people are feeling, the outcome of the ongoing war between the United States and Iran. That's the only reason that people in the United States would care about these wars outside of the United States. The only case.
And the price of oil.
Exactly, the price of oil, which is so important. I mentioned that would influence their economy, their life. That's why they're going to be concerned. That's why the Trump administration is manipulating everything to facilitate, to improve the situation inside the United States. That's the only reason of MOU. Pepe, it's all about oil market. It's, in my opinion, it's all about oil market. It's not nothing of.
And the bond markets. He looks at the bond
Exactly.
markets every day because he knows that if the bond markets go out of control, that's it. That's the paralysis, the actual paralysis of the American economy. But this is it. It's inevitable, Nim. It's a bunch of lowly grifters. That's it. This is the headline for the Trump administration. All of them. No exceptions. Some more dangerous than others, like Bessent, the Secretary of the Treasury. He's much, much, much more dangerous because he's one of the manipulators of the financial system. That's it. So this guy is dangerous. And the really dangerous guys are the ones behind, the ones who don't show up, and the ones who are manipulating the whole thing. The invisible crowd. These are the real dangerous ones. In front of the public face of this bunch of grifters is the grifter in chief, which happens to be a narcissistic, megalomaniac, senile psycho. Well, this explains from the beginning why he launched this war in the first place. Only a character with these characteristics would launch a war like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And proving once again how easy it is to manipulate him, because the decision was not his. The decision came to him that you are going to launch this war. And he did, like a faithful chihuahua. The chihuahuas in the European Union that he dismisses as the, well, he behaved like one of them.
Yeah. Thank you, Pepe.
Thank you. Today is a very complicated day. I hope for the moment there's nothing. And in fact, we only hope that these mediators in the shade are able to at least postpone the dimension. So that comes back once again to, I cannot imagine, I cannot even imagine I'm saying this, but this is true. That it depends on Asim Munir and Erdogan telling Trump, look, don't do this, because then he will have to listen to them. Because he doesn't listen to anybody else, apart from the donors, the mediocrities around him, you name it. The CENTCOM generals, which are absolutely clueless and desperate by the fact that all their military bases are being reduced to dust, and there's nothing they can do about it. Can you imagine how these guys feel at the moment? And they don't have a war plan, because we have been discussing this over and over again. Every war plan gamed already by the Pentagon, all the scenarios involving any sort of ground invasion of Iran are an absolute disaster, and they know it.